today I want to talk a little bit about having mentorship at work. The importance of having mentorship in general, especially young guys, and and women too. I don't see a lot of that in the corporate IT world. I'll say, let me take that back. Let me say it a different way. I don't see a lot of corporate, I haven't personally here in this state, maybe a place like Atlanta, Houston, stuff like that, but I haven't seen like a lot of mentorship programs where it should be like, brothers and sisters mentoring each other in the IT landscape. I don't really see that much here. Now, it's too late, and it's something I should have probably promoted, but on Butler Drive, which is one of my favorite roads in St. Paul, they got this tomorrow. Maybe I'll try to upload this tonight, I don't know. But I sent one of the brothers that I'm looking to try to place, and it's kind of hard to bite. His resume ain't really been biting like that because, like I say, things is changing. But I sent him to a networking arena where there's a brother that he does kind of like the stuff that I do, but on a different scale. And he has a IT company that places people. So I told him to go there. They're going to have games. They're going to have prizes. They're going to like video games and all kind of different stuff. It's like the tech space. I never got around to going, but they have it like every year. And I think this is the second year that they're having it. So that's super important to have some kind of mentorship program. Now, I usually, when I go into a lot of the workspaces, I've been in it long enough so I can navigate it myself. But you still might need somebody to give you what I call the keys to the yard. Me and this one brother was having lunch today, and he's an older cat. He was the one that was kind of just letting me know, okay, who is who. You don't want to rock with this person. You don't want to rock with that person. I use the term keys to the yard. So much is the mentorship. I told him when we were sitting there having lunch and we were talking about certain people doing little shady stuff, and like I noticed one dude that was on the IT team was talking slick behind one of the brothers' back. There's a brother that works kind of in our arena, and dude was talking slick, talking about what the dude ain't doing and this, that, and the third. And so I noticed this brother always be trying to look out for them. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't really understand what was the purpose of him just kind of but that's not the first time that I saw that. I was telling him also about a time, because he sits kind of close by me, about other people complaining about the other brother and him working remote, because he done made it in the upper echelon of things. And so I take it as a piece of mentorship to a certain extent. I've been doing this for a while, long enough to where I don't really need step by step, but it's always good to have a helping hand when you get into any of these work environments. So I told him, we were having a discussion at lunch, and afterwards when we were coming back down, I said, man, I look at it like a prison yard. The work environment is like the yard. You're coming in, you're new. And he was talking about how like you got to kind of stand your ground. That's what I like. This is their world. The managers are the wardens. This is their world. When you step into that arena and you step into that lion's den, this is their world. And a lot of the co-workers, a lot of times they act like the guards. They do. They do. They act like guards, y'all. I'm telling y'all. They act like, well, they deputize themselves a lot of times. A lot of folks will be around you and they'll be constantly asking you what you're doing, what you up to, things of that nature. And he was like, man, I agree 100%. He said, I agree 100%. So we were just kind of talking amongst ourselves. He's one of the few people that I relate things to. Somebody I believe I can trust, where I'll be like, yeah, what's up with so and so and so. And the people that we kind of mentioning, we know what their get down is, because I've shared certain stories and he shared certain stories. So, you know, when you're a black person and you have somebody that, especially a younger person, that comes on quote unquote the yard, when they come on that yard, when they come in that workplace, it's our duty to let them know what is what. That dude over there, he a predator. Don't talk to him. So dead serious, dead ass serious. Dead serious. You gotta steer them away from certain folks that don't mean them well. Don't just let them go and walk around down the corridor and down the hallway and they just willy-nilly not knowing what's going on and stuff like that. And then, you know, no, don't do that. You got to let them know, hey man, that dude over there, you be cordial with him, but yeah, I wouldn't be hanging out with that dude all like that or whatever. Now, granted, the yard you get hurt. This you get hurt too, but it could be in a way where you could get some disciplinary action. Somebody could set you up, whatever the case may be. I've seen that happen. I've seen brothers come in, do good jobs or whatever the case may be, and they've trusted the wrong person. They've said something. Oh yeah, you know, me and my wife are getting ready to buy, you know, a boat. They start talking about large purchases, and they start talking about things of value such as homes and real estate, and they start sharing that. I don't share any of the stuff I do on the side, let alone my books and all that. I don't talk about that. Now the brother happens to know about that. But here's the thing. He knew this other brother. Remember the one I told you I worked in the Egan? I told y'all that story. I'm going to have him interview. I'm going to get his interview one day. He knew through him what work I actually did. Because even still, when I met him, I had to do a little paperwork check. I had to do my own little vetting. I didn't really have no suspicions. But when he pulled me to the side and kind of let me know about a situation that happened, like, hey man, you gotta rectify that, bro. Cause at first it was damn near like the yard. I said, man, I'll just let it go. He said, nope, can't let that go, bro. You gotta rectify that, because he gonna keep on doing it. When dude pulled that shit earlier this year, I said, man, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but if I would have let that shit go, it would have got worse. And I wasn't going to do that to myself. I wasn't going to do that to myself, because dude would have kept doing little funny stuff and thinking it was okay to go ahead and do it. So I had to have a conversation with him. I had to pull him to the side and be like, hey man, you know, and later on, like I told you, I'm going to tell y'all everything that happened. I just ain't going to do it right now because I'm just, you know, but I'm going to tell y'all in detail, in severe detail. The only thing I won't say is names when the time is right. I'm going to tell y'all everything that happened, because this is a channel that I don't like holding stuff back. If somebody did some foul shit, then I'm going to say what happened. I'm just not going to go in detail just yet. You know, but what I do want to also say is I told him about another situation in terms of the contract. And he was like, yeah, that was good. So now we got little meetings that we can set up and we can talk to each other maybe once a week, kind of debrief. Because see, one thing I kind of learned, he said, man, I know I'm an older guy, I'm a little older. He said, but man, doing all that, what they call extra smoozing and all that. He said, man, I can't do that shit no more. He said, I ain't got no more energy for that. He said, what you got to do a lot of time with these white folks is you start off in the morning, you talk to them a little bit, and then let them know you got to get back to work. That way they don't feel like you trying to avoid them or do whatever the case may be. Because and I told him it's hard for me to do if I sense that somebody's doing some janky shit around me. It's really, really hard for me to do it. But he said, you got to do it just so you keep the machine and the oil running in the machine. It's like, you're playing politics. I don't even use the term playing the game to a certain extent. I'm going to say you're playing politics because remember, politics is warfare, social warfare, psychological warfare, physical warfare. This is social psychological warfare I'm talking about. You go into this environment, you start noticing people start doing the hazing and start doing certain things. That's psychological. That's not physical warfare. That's psychological warfare. That's social. So you go into these environments and some of these folks are doing these little shady things or doing whatever these little things. I told you about the 6 to 24 month hazing period. 6 months right off the rip. You're going to get that 6 months. And then some things might change. They could get a little worse and then they bounce back. They start their hazing, and based on how you react is how they're going to go about it. Okay, is this dude getting mad? Because they know what they're doing. I don't ever want y'all brothers and sisters to think that these folks do not know what they're doing when they're in the work arena. They know that's their yard. So they're going to be the warden of the North. You remember Game of Thrones, with Lord Bolton? They're going to be the warden of the North. So they're seeing how you're going to react based on some of the things that they say and some of the things that they do. They're going to see if you're going to get upset so they can use the angry black man or the angry black woman thing. They're going to do that. Every environment is the same. You just have different levels on how they do. Your job is to know how you react. You see? So I have not given, other than maybe a little silence, I have not given enough reaction to where somebody thinks, okay, well, it's problematic because I'm getting my work done and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, what makes, and see, this is, I get in mentorship mode myself. Like at work, we had a lunch and I met this sister and she was asking about how to level up. And I just said Kubernetes and I sent it to her. You see what I'm saying? So she could kind of look at that, and that's something. And I'm like, well, if you need my help, just holler. Now, in hindsight, I want y'all to think about this. Remember when I gave y'all that information talking about fraternizing at work? Had I been a guy that was a single dude, I could have said, hey, what's going on? Because remember, women just don't talk to you just for the sense of talking to you. If they walking around and they kind of showing you, around and showing you a tour, whatever they know, that's their way of showing interest, but being professional. You see what I'm saying? So, if I would have been, 20 years ago or something like that, 17, 20 years ago or whatever like that, I could have been like, oh, what's going on? I could have. I'm not saying that I for sure would, but, but that was a sense of mentorship for me. Oh, hey, I'm gonna point you in the right direction. Because obviously there's nobody that has showed her that because she didn't even know what that was. You see what I'm saying? So, mentorship's important, man. You got to help the younger black men and women, help them navigate through the yard. Because like I said, I didn't have nobody to really navigate. I navigated myself. When I got in this game, I navigated myself. I had to kind of learn these things. And remember when I met my first trailer trash Bob with the Rosewood mentality, that was in 2008. That was the one that had the Hitler on his wall and all that kind of stuff. He didn't know that I knew that. That man had Hail Hitler on his wall and the Nazi insignia and all that. I suspected that because when we were going off into we went somewhere over Northeast to do like a not a picnic, but some kind of, I don't remember what it is. One of these little social gatherings, right? And I was kind of off to myself doing my thing, and then the supervisor was kind of like, "Oh, yo, come over here," and and try to. I wasn't really trying to participate too much, and he saw that. That's why he kind of beckoned me over, like, "Come." I was kind of doing my thing. When the guy, he took off his shirt. I know them insignias. I know them little Nordic insignias and them little Nazi low ride. It wasn't the Nazi thing, but I know what that stuff looks like. I know what when they be striking up, when they be marking up, I know what those symbols mean. So when the white guy told me about him having all that Hitler and that Nazi logo, all that white supremacist stuff all around his house, that means the dude probably had been to his house at one point. Or he told him that he has this stuff on his house. Posters and all these race soldiers at his house and stuff like that. Dude had the big truck. The truck where they sit up on the wheels. That's another one. I'm not saying all white folks do that, but that's another one. When they got the big truck sitting on the wheels, unnecessary large sitting up on the wheels. Cress Wells used to talk about that. Like they will make up. They'll make up for what they ain't got. Well, I want to look important. I want to look imposing. You put the big wheels up. So he had the wheels, he had the tattoos, and confirmation that this dude had all this insignia in his house. But I didn't know how to navigate that. Now, the manager knew that he was a race soldier, and I'm quite sure he knew them reviews. But because this dude he was a telecom guy and the only guy that knows the Avaya system, they kept him. And he do a whole lot of stuff but see, I didn't know how to navigate. I was learning. That was my first corporate enterprise environment. You see what I'm saying? And this was a Danish company. So it was some brothers there. It wasn't a lot. So I think I'll do a deep dive in that one more time, but it ain't gonna be today.